Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of Just Parlays with Chris King. Today is October 7th, 2022. It's day one of the Major League Baseball postseason. It's also day one of the National Hockey League season. Sure, most of the teams won't open up till next week on Wednesday. But there is a game going on. It'll be going first, or puck drop will be in a few minutes here in Prague at the O2 Arena when the Sharks take on the Predators for the first of two over there. Of course, like I said, and there's James chiming in with his typical yo to start off the show. Matthew here, also a big Predators fan, as we know. Should be an interesting one over there. San Jose still a team that, for lack of better terms, is rebuilding. The Predators trying to build off last season's playoff performance. I'm sorry. Did they make – no, wait. It was a long season last season, so I have to try and remember if they actually made the playoffs or not. I know losing – yeah, they did. That's right. Because Saros got hurt, so they had to go with the backup goaltender, who played pretty well in a few of those games against Colorado. But hopefully Saros is healthy. It'll benefit the Predators going forward. I think the starting goaltenders for that game are slated to be James Reimer going for the Sharks, which is always interesting. You know, Reimer's bounced around the league quite a bit in recent years. Still a solid goaltender, and he just, nobody cares about him because he's basically become a journeyman just due to, circumstances that were beyond his control. But it's supposed to be him, I believe. And is it Saros that is going tonight? According to this, he's supposed to be in that last season between those teams. Nashville took all three meetings, winning 3-1 and 1-0 in overtime at home. They also won 8-0 on the road in San Jose on March 5th. The Preds have won 6 of the last 7 meetings against the Sharks going into this contest. So should be beneficial for the Sharks. There were a lot of short series last year, so I mean, the way we saw things unfold between that and then you had the NBA and everything that's gone on during the summer with the WNBA and all the other crap. It's hard to remember what happened to hockey. It seems like it was so long ago when the season ended, and it really was only about 3.5 months. But we'll talk about that. Should be a capacity crowd, I would imagine, because hey, what else are they going to watch in Prague at this point of the year? We'll talk about last night's thrilling National Football League game. I think they're going to market that as a cure for insomnia because Nathaniel Hackett found a way to outcoach himself again. Very disappointing performance by the Broncos. I thought they would have won the game. They should have won the game. Some stupid play calling down the stretch, and then in overtime, doomed Denver. Ruined what would have been good because, a lot of the stuff we talked about yesterday came to fruition. We talked about how the game was going to stay under the total. We talked about the Colts staying under 19.5, going into the final couple minutes of the game. Well, heck, even at the end of regulation, those teams didn't even combine for 19.5 points. We talked about Cortland Sutton. We talked about having to throw the ball. We talked about Russell Wilson. We talked about Matt Ryan. A lot of people saying at this point they might as well just go to Nick Foles. Be interested to see what everybody thinks about that as well. Matthew's going to the Grizzlies preseason game tonight. Best time of year, yeah. You got the baseball playoffs. You got the NFL going on. You've got the NBA preseason. The regular season starts less than 2 weeks from today. It's about 11 or 12 days off. like I said, hockey will start in full swing next week. And like we talked about the other day, we're only about a month away from the start of college basketball. And then we'll have all kinds of stuff going on, not to mention college football. So at that point, then that time of span of time from, early November through the bowl games is really the best time of year. By then baseball will be finished, but everything else will still be in full swing. And I know everybody, especially James, loves when we get to college hoop season. Good to see you, Joaquin. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are good with you. Hopefully all of our buddies like Super Sly, we haven't seen him in a while, or Michael Dost, haven't seen him. But hopefully those guys all doing well, and hopefully they'll catch up with us again sometime in the near future. Let's see, what do we got going on right now? They're in the top of the 8th already in Cleveland. It just shows you how dull this game has been. The score, the Guardians 2, the Rays 1. 2 outs on the top of the 8th. The Guardians have a runner on first. And Cleveland, Terry Francona's just gone to the bullpen. Emmanuel Clase coming in relief. In relief of Shane Bieber, who went 7 2/3, gave 1 run on 3 hits, a walk, and 8 strikeouts through 99 pitches to get through that. And as soon as Clase comes in, he doesn't watch the runner. He throws a 99-mile-an-hour cutter for a strike, but Brujan, who came in to pinch run for Paredes, steals second. So the tying run in scoring position now with 2 outs in the 8th. Jose Siri's at the plate. He's accounted for the Tampa Bay run. He hit a solo homer in the top of the 6th. That was answered by a 2-run homer by who else? Jose Ramirez, the Mr. Do-It-All for Cleveland, in the bottom of the frame, scoring Ahmed Rosario, who had singled right ahead of him. Not a ton of offense in this game. Cleveland's got 7 hits. Tampa Bay has 3. McClanahan's gone all 7 innings. He's gone 2 runs, 7 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts. He's thrown 85 pitches. And we just gave you the rundown on Bieber a moment ago. This total started at 6. It went down to 5.5. At this rate, if this holds up, we won't even get there. Personally, I had on an 0-2 pitch, Siri pops out to short, lines out, they're going to call it. It wasn't much of a hard liner to third. Inning over, so they'll go to the bottom of the 8th, Cleveland nursing that 2-1 lead. We'll see if McClanahan comes out for the 8th or if they try to ride him for another inning. At 85 pitches, you'd have to think he's still got something in the tank. Bieber had 8 Ks. I actually had that one on the on my premiums. I took him. I think they had it at 5.5 was still plus money. So you could have run up the ladder a couple more and hit a fairly decent number on that. So what do we got today to talk about? Well, the Cardinals and Phillies will be getting underway just in a minute. That'll be Zach Wheeler and Jose Quintana. All 3 games under first 5. So you took all four playoff games then, right, JC? Let me take a look and see what the numbers were for those. Because I know that the totals for these are all ridiculously low. Because I know Darvish and Scherzer was still at 6 as a total this morning. Let's see. First 5 for Phillies Cardinals, that's Wheeler and Quintana. They've got the first 5 for that game set at 3. Okay. Not crazy about that, but we'll see how things unfold there. Seattle, Toronto, that's Castillo and Manoah. First 5 total there is 3.5. And in the late game, which is Darvish and Scherzer, the total for the first 5 in that contest is set at 3. Okay. If I had to pick the one that would nick you the most, I'd be most worried about. Let's see. I'd probably be worried most about the Phillies and the Cardinals because those teams both have guys who can put the ball in the seats. But then again, it's the Phillies and the Cardinals, and God knows that they can find ways to put up zeros when you least want them. I still don't know about why Quintana got the start in this one. I would have started Jordan Montgomery probably, based on the way he pitched after coming over in that trade. Schwarber fouled out to the catcher to lead off the game. Real productive at bat there. Though at least he didn't strike out, which is what I thought he was going to do since he was down in the count early. So Hoskins is at the plate now. But we'll keep up with that. We'll keep up with Cleveland, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay did pull McClanahan. They've gone to Garrett Clevenger, former Dodger. Not really crazy about him. I probably would have stuck with McClanahan if I was going to just roll another lefty out there. But you know, what are you going to do? That's the way baseball goes. But yeah, we'll talk about the two games that are left because, you know, obviously Cleveland, Tampa Bay is in the later stages, and Philadelphia, St. Louis just started. But we'll talk about Seattle, Toronto. We'll talk about San Diego and the Mets. Got 4 college football games on the slate tonight. I'm sure everybody's excited to see Colorado State, Nevada, and Nebraska, Rutgers. UNLV, San Jose State in the battle of surprising teams in the Mountain West. And Houston and Memphis, where you've got one team that's 2-3 and one team that's 4-1. But if you looked at last season's numbers, you wouldn't think that the teams, you'd think their records would be reversed because you wouldn't expect to see Memphis with 4 straight wins coming into this one. Let's see. IC wants to know if he's a degenerate for taking every under in Nerfy. No, not really. I mean, you're in the postseason. You're going to see a lot of good pitchers, theoretically. And a lot of these teams don't have a ton of postseason experience. You look at the Mariners, they haven't been here since 2001. And the weather is going to be a big factor because in Cleveland, it was, I think, 52, 53 degrees at first pitch. You know, it's going to be cold in New York. I'm not sure what the weather was in St. Louis. I didn't get a chance to look before the show, but we'll take a quick look and see what they have to tell us. And then, of course, let's see. At Progressive Field, they had projected negative 15% home runs, negative 16% at Busch Stadium. The only stadium to have a positive impact on runs today, according to Ballpark Pal, is Rogers Center. The City Field, the conditions say negative 6% on runs. Progressive Field, negative 8%. Busch Stadium, negative 10%. At Busch, they've got the winds projected to push in towards the right field corner at 10 miles an hour. At Progressive Field, which we already know the weather is not great, wind blowing in almost from dead center at 16. And at City Field tonight, they're saying it's going to blow towards the right field. It's blowing in, but it's blowing in towards the right field corner at about 9 miles an hour. Temperature about 64 degrees for that contest. Rogers Center, you know, it's a dome, so you don't have to worry about it. They're going to close the dome up. That's going to work in the favor of not having to smack the ball through the wind. But James says the lines look fishy this week. Any particular lines you're talking about, James? Because, I mean, there's a lot of lines out there. So I'm curious which ones we might be talking about that are fishy. So maybe we can take a look at it. And while we wait for James to let us know about that, the Phillies go down 1-2-3 in the first. Hoskins went down on a fly ball to center. Real Muto bounced to third. So 1-2-3 first for Quintana. That boasts well for IC's degenerate Nerfy, as long as Wheeler does the job in the bottom of the first, facing Nootbaar, of all people, batting leadoff, then Pujols, then Goldschmidt. We're now on the bottom of the eighth in Cleveland. Kwan has gone down. Rosario just struck out after being ahead in the count. So 2 outs in the bottom of the eighth. Ramirez coming up for the Guardians in that contest. I agree. Nevada does look very good at the price. You look at Colorado State, they just got blown out in their last game, 41-10 by Sacramento State, a FCS program. You look at the Rams, and their 4 games this season they haven't covered. Somehow they've stayed under the total in all their games, despite giving up at least 34 points in every contest. They were beat 51-7 at Michigan. They were beat 34-19 at home by Middle Tennessee. They were beaten 38-7 at Washington State. And they lost 41-10 to Sacramento State. Both teams coming off a bye here. Nevada was beaten by Air Force 48-20 on the road 2 weeks ago. Before that, they lost to Iowa 27-0 on the road. They lost to Incarnate Word 55-41. That was a weird game. But they won their first 2 games. They beat New Mexico State 23-12 on the road as a 7-point favorite. They whipped Texas State 38-14 at home as a 2-point underdog. I know everybody's talking about how, Norvell's coming back to face his former team. He took a bunch of guys with him to Colorado State. Who cares? None of these guys have played for squat when you look at how poorly Colorado State's played this year. On top of that, Clay Millen, their quarterback, is doubtful. He injured his shoulder against Sacramento State, so they could be turning to their backup QB, who would be making career start number 1. Trying to remember what his name is because it's about 406 letters. So give me a second, and I'll pull it up. I know he played against Sacramento State. He was 6 of 15 for, I think, 112 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. Whoop-de-doo, you still lost 41-10. Let's see. Colorado State's backup quarter might be starting is, let's find his name. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, 6 of 15, 116 and a touchdown. Also got sacked once. Ran 3 times for 4 yards. Let's face it, this is a Colorado State team that is last in the nation in rushing offense, 46 yards a game. They're last in rushing yards per attempt, 1.4. They haven't scored a rushing touchdown. They're not great defensively. I actually like Nevada a lot here. Nebraska 5-0 against Rutgers. Yeah, I still don't like Nebraska. I don't like Nebraska. Sure, they beat Indiana last week. This is their first game on the road all season, though. They've played everything at home. And Rutgers, they got trucked by Ohio State. Everybody expected that anyway. Before that, they lost to Iowa, but you look at that game, and Simon threw for over 300 yards against an Iowa defense that's pretty good. And that's not something you can necessarily say about Nebraska's defense. I think we can all agree that Nebraska's defense is pretty lousy. I I actually think Rutgers is undervalued in this situation. Matthew pointing out the Predators looking good. They're up 1-0. The first goal of the NHL season scored by none other than, of course, you guessed it, Kiefer Sherwood. His first of the year from Matthias Ekholm and Ryan McDonough at the 1:01 mark of the opening period. Both teams with 2 shots on goal early. They're about 4 minutes into the first period. Again, Nashville 1, San Jose nothing. We've reached the end of the 8th in Cleveland. Guardians still up 2-1. Clevenger gave up a base hit to Ramirez with 2 outs, but struck out Gonzalez to end the frame. So 2 strikeouts for Clevenger. We'll go to the 9th at Progressive Field. Class A going to try to close it out and give the Guardians a 1-0 series advantage. Game 2 of that series will be tomorrow. Basically, Game 2 of all these series will be tomorrow, and Game 3, if necessary, will be Sunday. Game 2 starters in this set, Tyler Glasnow, making just his 3rd start since coming back from Tommy John surgery, will get the start against Tristan McKenzie. Again, that's a 12:07 p.m. start at Progressive Field tomorrow afternoon. Looking at the Cardinals game, Nootbaar singled the lead off. Pujols has lined to center on a 2-0 pitch. So Goldschmidt at the plate now counts 2-2. And he just went down looking. So got burned on a 98-mile-an-hour fastball up and away. Hit the corner. So Nolan Arenado, the last chance to keep the inning alive and potentially ruin IC's degenerate betting for the day. Do I think Nevada goes under? Well, right. I forgot about the Ireland game, Andrew. That was seems like so long ago because it was at the end of August. I mean, come on, we're in October already. We're talking about pumpkin spice lattes and all that crap. But yeah, Nebraska defense is terrible. Do I think Nevada goes under? It's definitely possible. But then again, Colorado State's defense is so bad that they could give up, 28 or 30 points to Nevada and edge it over. I know the total's not very high in that game. I think it was 44.5, something like that. It's down to 44 at WinBet. It'll be close. I'll say that. Excuse me while I blow my nose here. Got a lot of allergies and all that good stuff. So like I said, it's possible that it goes over. Yeah, Pujols is batting second. Don't ask me why. I guess they figured since he got hot down the stretch, they might as well stick him near the top of the lineup instead of batting him 7th. Colorado State, Nevada could go over. It just depends whether Colorado State can do anything offensively. I know everybody's talking about, if there's a team that Colorado State should know, it's Nevada. Well, that doesn't mean you can stop anybody. Matthew asking about Memphis and Houston over. Boy, I'll tell you what. Dana Holgerson's defense has been terrible. We talked when Rachel and I did the conference previews about how aggressive they were getting after the passer last year. And you look this year, and the fewest points that Houston has given up is 27. They give up 35 to UTSA and a win that they pulled out in overtime. Then they lost to Texas Tech, gave up 33. Then they gave up 48 to Kansas at home. Then they gave up 27 to Rice and couldn't cover as a 17-point favorite. And then they lost outright to Tulane in overtime, 27-24. And, Memphis's defense is no great shakes either. In their first 4 games, they gave up 49 to Mississippi State. They did shut down Navy, but that's not saying a whole lot, given Navy's style of offense. They gave up 32 to Arkansas State. They gave up 34 to North Texas. And then, of course, they beat Temple last week. But, again, nobody's confusing Temple with an actual good offense. You look at the numbers there, and Memphis is 123rd in the country against the pass. They're 71st in scoring defense. It is 117th in scoring defense, 34 a game, 114th against the pass, 97th in total defense. This could be like you guys remember playing Tecmo Super Bowl where you could just run with Bo Jackson and go up and down the screen and run out an entire quarter? This would be like that, except running straight through the defenses to go to the end zone. It wouldn't surprise me if both these teams hit 30-plus points. So, yeah, I think that one will go over. I've got that one on one of the slides somewhere. Andrew pointing out the Nerfy is cashed in as Arenado flew to right to end the inning. So no score in Philadelphia after one. I see 2-0 with his Nerfies in the first. Meanwhile, the game is over in Cleveland. While we were talking about all that exciting stuff, Clase mowed down the Rays in the ninth. Diaz went down on strikes. Wander Franco bounced to short, swinging at the first pitch. And on an 0-2 count, Clase got a Arozarena to fly to left. So that game now over. Final score, the Cleveland Guardians 2, the Tampa Bay Rays 1. Bieber gets the win. McClanahan, the hard luck loser. Clase gets the final 4 outs to pick up the save. His first, obviously, of the playoffs. Cleveland now leads 1-0. They have a chance to close it out tomorrow. Like we said, it'll be McKenzie and Glasnow. If necessary, in Game 3, Tampa Bay has yet to name a starter. Cleveland would go with Cal Quantrill, the king of run support. So that is in the mix there. So quick game, because like I said, that game started at 12:07. It's not even 2:30, and that game is over. So kudos for getting it in and not making people freeze at Progressive Field. Yeah, I don't blame you not betting a minus 400 line after Ramirez homered. I think it'll for Tampa Bay. You know, they just used their best pitcher. I know that Glasnow has been fairly decent in his couple starts, but he hasn't gone super deep in games. I mean, can you run the risk of cutting him loose and having him go 6-7 innings after only 2 starts? And the biggest problem is, can Tampa Bay score any runs? That's been their biggest issue all season long. They go through these long stretches where they struggle to put runs on the board. And facing McKenzie, it's not going to be a whole lot easier than it was when they faced Bieber here. Yeah, DE, I've got a shot in the dark. I try not to mess with NBA preseason any more than I mess with hockey preseason because you don't know who's going to play or who they're going to sit out or how long they're going to play guys. It's just so fickle. I know Reichel likes to talk about about preseason hoops. But, you look at some of these, like Chicago opened as a 1-point underdog against Denver. Now the line has shifted where they're favored by 4. So that tells me, Jokic probably isn't going to play for them. But you don't know what they're going to do with guys like Porter Jr. or Murray or anybody else. That's why I hate preseason basketball. I hate it almost as much as I hate, preseason football because some teams will actually play their starters for an extended period. Then you get teams like the Rams who don't play anybody. Good to see you, Ryan. I hope you're having a good time in Vegas. Hopefully you're not watching the Sharks. We talked about that a little bit ago. Still 1-0. Nashville, just over 8 minutes into the game, the Sharks on the power play with Ryan Johansson. Oh no, so that power play ended. Things slow on updating on my screen here. They were on the power play, did not cash in. Shots on goal, 6-5 in favor of Nashville. Like I said, about the way through the first in Prague. Should be up, and San Jose tied it up, a goal by Thomas Hertl. So right after I said that Ryan shouldn't be watching the game, Hertl scores. So there you go. So it's now 1-1. Funny, I remember a lot of things. Some of them just, don't get mentioned all the time. Let's see. Just checking here. James was talking about Tennessee and Tulane as lines that didn't really move. Tennessee, LSU, yeah. I think that, they were with Tennessee, they were kind of worried about guys being banged up. Tillman had a procedure on his ankle. They don't think he'll play. I know Hendon Hooker was banged up after the game against Florida. They're hoping he'll be healthy enough. I still think that line is a little low. I think Tennessee should beat LSU. I know, LSU has won 4 in a row. They struggled in that Auburn game. I had them to win and cover against Auburn, and they just were terrible early, trying to dare the backup quarterback for Auburn to throw and beat him, and he nearly did because he was throwing the ball all over the damn place. And they were fortunate. I still like Tennessee there. Tulane, I got to look and see who they have. Tulane plays East Carolina. I'll say this: Tulane is surprised. I'm surprised they're 4-1 because they're not necessarily a great team. And they upset Kansas State and then went home and lost to Southern Miss. East Carolina, they have 2 losses by a total of 4 points. They lost to Navy in overtime in a game they should have won. They lost to NC State by 1 in a game they probably should have won because they missed a couple field goals and a couple extra points. They're coming off a beatdown of South Florida in a game that wasn't as close as the 20-point margin would indicate. I don't know if I like Tulane there. I get there at home. Pratt is questionable. Do you really want to go with a team that was playing their 3rd string quarterback? I don't. But that's just me. Toledo, Duke, and Illinois. Well, that's quite a trio. Tulane is favored by, I think, let me double check because I've got the screen up still here. Tulane is favored by 3.5. If I could get the hook, I would take East Carolina. I just don't trust Tulane. Like I said, they've been playing with a 2nd and 3rd string quarterback. Holton Ahlers, even though he looks like he's about 47, is capable of running the offense well for East Carolina. They've got a good attack. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me with it being a line like that. Toledo at Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois sucks. I'm surprised Toledo's only favored by 5.5. And I get the part of it is that they sucked against San Diego State on the road, and they got blown out by Ohio State on the road. But Northern Illinois, they've lost 4 in a row. Granted, they were all close games. They lost to Tulsa by 3. They lost to Vanderbilt by 10. They lost to Kentucky by 8. And they lost to Ball State by 6 in overtime. Don't like Rocky Lombardi. He's questionable. Still don't like him. Don't like their backup. They're horrible on defense. 115th in total defense, 129th against the pass, 118th in scoring defense. Toledo's pretty good defensively, barring against the run. They have some struggles there, but that's mainly because they faced Ohio State, who did whatever the hell they wanted. I'd probably still take Toledo minus 5.5. Duke. Oh yeah, this is Duke Georgia Tech. That's right. Everybody's excited that Georgia Tech won a friggin' football game last week because they beat Pitt. They're like, "Ooh, this new coach is 1-0." So a lot of guys start 1-0. It's what you do after you're 1-0. And I'm still looking at a team whose only win before that was over Western Carolina, and they didn't cover there. They got dumped by Central Florida. They got blanked by Ole Miss at home. They got trounced by Clemson in Atlanta. I'm not going to say Duke is, a powerhouse in the ACC. But, they had won 4 straight games or 3 straight games, and they lost to Kansas. But they played tough against Kansas on the road. The fact that you're only having to give 3.5 points in that game is ridiculous. And what was the other one we had there that James mentioned there? Over-under for Toledo is 60. Let's see. What was the other one that James threw up there that I missed? Illinois, I think it was. Yeah, Illinois. Well, I'll cut you a little slack, DE, because, you like Northern Illinois. I'm just, Lombardi, I didn't like him when he was at Michigan State. He hasn't done anything to endear himself to me now. Illinois and Iowa. Oh, boy. Well, it's Iowa, so, their offense is going to look like their offensive drive is going to look like this: punt, interception, punt, half, punt, fumble, downs, touchdown, end of game. That's probably what Illinois' stat line is going to look like because they don't do jack squat. 3 times this year they scored 14 or less, including twice where they had 7. And the first time they had 7, they didn't even find the end zone. It was a field goal on 2 safeties. The highest point total they have is 27. That was against Rutgers and Nevada. Even then, they didn't move the ball all that much. Illinois will run the ball. Then they'll run the ball again. Then they'll run the ball. I don't see Iowa being able to hold Brown in check. And this is an Illinois team that's got some momentum. They just trounced Wisconsin at Camp Randall. Wisconsin to fire Paul Chryst and bring in Jim Leonard as the interim. They've outscored the opponents 89-13 in the last 3 games. And yet you're basically giving Illinois only the standard 3.5 points as the home team as the line. I think it's ridiculous. Iowa's not good. They haven't gotten rid of Petrus yet, who seems like he's been there forever and hasn't gotten any better. I would think Illinois with DeVito and Brown should take care of business. And real quick, we'll just touch on last night's Thursday night game. Basically, it boils down to this. We talked about Nathaniel Hackett outcoaching himself. You have the ball 3rd and 4 at the 13-yard line with 2 minutes to go, leading by 3. Even if you run the ball and don't get a first down, oh, we got this tool again. Bye. Even if you don't get the first down on the run play, you can grind some clock, and you kick a field goal and you're up 6. Indianapolis has done nothing the whole afternoon or the whole evening. I'm so used to them being that game should have been a Sunday at 1:00 game. That way nobody would have had to worry about watching it. Instead, you try to throw a pass. Why? If it's incomplete, you stop the clock. If it's intercepted, you don't even have the ball, so you can't kick a field goal. I would have rather have run the ball. I don't care if he ran it with Wilson. I don't care if he ran it with Mike Boone. I wouldn't have given it to Gordon because he probably would have fumbled it. Kick the field goal, go up 6, make the Colts drive the length of the field to beat you. It's not that hard. And then they go in overtime. You get down to the 5-yard line. You go 4th and 1, and you go shotgun, trying to, catch them off guard. It didn't work. I know that's one of Reichel's biggest peeves is 4th and 1, and you go pistol or you go shotgun, or you try to run some stupid play like the jet sweep the Cardinals tried to run last week with Moore, and he got stuffed for a 4-yard loss. Just friggin' run a QB sneak, turn around, hand the ball off to somebody, go to a jumbo package, worst case, run a play action fake or something where you run the dive and you just bleed somebody out to the side so you can just walk into the end zone. Don't friggin' go shotgun. What the hell are you thinking? Nathaniel Hackett, a repeat winner of the Trojan Ends Boner of the Week Award. IC said the Broncos and Ravens must have partied together. It's quite possible. But that's a story for a different day. Just horrifying. I thought that Denver was going to win that game rather easily. Instead, they played down to their level of competition, and it bit them in the ass. And that's why they lost. And it's probably why they're not going to be as a playoff team come the end of the year, because you can't put away these close games. By the way, Phillies Cardinals now top of the third, scoreless. What a surprise. Gene Segura just bounced to second, so 1 out in the top of the third. Cardinals have 1 hit. Phillies have no hits. Wheeler has 2 strikeouts. Quintana hasn't fanned anybody yet. Come on, Quintana, you got to strike some guys out, you bum. Preds and Sharks still 1-1. Under 6 to go in the first period. Tennessee and TCU. Yeah, Denver killed a lot of things yesterday. Tennessee, TCU, let's see. I know Andrew said he'd take LSU all day. I'm just not convinced LSU is very good offensively. I like Tennessee. If Tennessee goes up multiple scores, boy, I'll tell you what. If they go up 10 or 14 points, LSU's in a world of shit. Because I watched that game against Auburn, and they did not move the ball at all in the first half. They just looked like they were stuck in wet cement. TCU giving 7 at Kansas. First time college game, 6.5, depending on the book. First time college game day has ever come to Lawrence, Kansas. You know why? Because Kansas has won 23 games the last 12 years. That's not a typo. Last time they had won at least 5 games was 2009 when Mark Mangino was still there. So Lance Leopold's done a good job. My concern with Kansas, they get lit up by the pass. They're 107th in the country in pass defense. TCU, second in the country in total offense, 549.5 yards a game. 21st in passing offense, 297.8. They're 5th in rushing offense. They're 2nd in scoring offense. I don't know if Daniels is good, or not Daniels. I don't know if Kansas has enough offense if they go to the air to keep up. And we saw Max Duggan just absolutely torch Oklahoma last week. I'll tell you what, TCU looks a hell of a lot better with Max Duggan under center than they did with Chandler Morris before he got hurt in the opener. Because that was a close game against Colorado until Duggan came in and then they blew the doors off. And they've just been rolling ever since. I like TCU. I like Kansas a lot. I just don't know if they have the horses here. They're going to have to try and grind it out kind of like they did with Iowa State. And that's not TCU style. TCU is going to push the tempo. They're going to get big chunk plays, and they're going to make you try to keep up with them. But yeah, Denver killed a lot of shit last night. I thought that they were going to win. They were I took them out, given the points, and thought that it was going to be an easy one, and instead we got a field goal fest. How bad is it that you play almost 70 minutes of football and neither team can find the end zone? It's like they had an allergy to it. Real quick, we'll do some housekeeping, then we'll get into the picks for today. If you don't get enough picks from me here, well, don't worry, because I have more. You can get my premium picks every day. They're in the link in the show box below. Let's see, what did I have? I send out, 7 parlays every day, and I have at least 3 single game picks, depending on the day. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. I've also got to start working on some premium packages just for viewers of the show. So if you get those packages, you get them at a discount since you tune in and watch anyway. So if there's any ideas of kind of packages that you guys would want to see, let me know. You can let me know in the comments. You can let me know on Twitter what would be something that you'd be interested in that regard. Because I want to start rolling those out next week. Something more geared to, you guys as the viewers, and let me know what it is that you guys might be looking for. And of course, check out the Winners and Winers website and YouTube channels for free picks all day long. And make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll never miss the show. Like I always say, unless you've been living under a rock and have never tuned into the show before, you know that we're on 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday. And in case even then you can't get enough, you can always check me out on the Bucks Report pregame show with Jim Williams and Big Game James Canada as we preview the Tampa Bay Bucks upcoming game. This week they play the Atlanta Falcons at Raymond James Stadium. So we'll be on at noon for that. And of course, coming up after me, you'll see Steve and Reichel doing their college football show. I thought Reichel might stop in today, but I'm guessing he got tied up taking a nap or eating a grapefruit or something. And if you haven't seen the NFL preview show, Once Upon a Time in Las Vegas, the rise of the greatest sports betting show in history, starring Steen and Rocky Foray, that's on our YouTube channel too. You can catch me and Reichel on there as we were the guests on the show this week. Okay, so James says Pratt did practice this weekend is questionable, so that's a good sign. I love how you classify that with "I guess." You're welcome on the Russell Wilson one. The 250, the over 250 one was even better prop, but I'm glad that something worked out. Considering how horrible that game was, I'm glad something worked out in it. Let's see. We'll go on to the picks for today. Exciting stuff, I'm sure. Everybody really looking forward to it. Just a quick update again on the games. Ooh, look at that. The Stott drew a walk. Vierling singled, so they have runners on the corners now at 2 outs in the top of the third as Schwarber did what he does best. If he's not hitting home runs, he's striking out. Went down swinging, so there you go, Quintana. That's 1. Preds, Sharks, 1-1. 3 minutes to go in the period. I saw Andrew was asking before if Ekholm was playing. He is. He had a shot blocked by Oscar Lindblom. Yeah, that game was horrible. At least the under cashed. Like you said, I had the Colts under 19.5, and at the end of regulation, they didn't even combine for 19.5 points. So there's that. So moving on, we'll go to 2 for the money. Look who it is. It's the Nevada Wolfpack. Like I said, I get Norvell's there. I get that he took a bunch of guys from Nevada. I get how they say, well, we know Nevada's offense. Well, guess what? Nevada's still better than you. Until I see Colorado State, A, put up some points, B, stop somebody from putting up some points, and C, actually win a game, I'm going to fade you. I think Toa Taua has a big game for Nevada on the ground. And let's not forget, Nevada's quarterback looks like he should be a power forward in the NBA. Nate Cox is 6'9". Let's see what his weight is because I forgot. 6'9" and they say 215. I doubt it. I think he's got a little more weight than that. But still, he's 6'9". If you get a pass knocked down and you're 6'9", you shouldn't be playing quarterback. Colorado State, they might get some guys back. They might not. It doesn't matter. They suck. Rutgers over Nebraska. Just don't trust Nebraska. I know Andrew pointed out they went to Ireland. They lost that game. They've struggled at home at times. They beat Indiana last week. They still gave up a ton of yards. And I just think that Rutgers should be able to take advantage of that Nebraska defense that is ranked roughly 473 out of 131 teams in pass defense. In all seriousness, they're 112th. They give 269 through the air, 200.2 on the ground, which is 119th. They're 124th in total defense. They're 107th in scoring defense. They turn the ball over a lot. Basically, you can take Jim Moore's speech about how we couldn't run the ball, we couldn't complete a pass, we couldn't get a first down. Every time the other team got the ball, they scored points. It sucked. We stunk, and translated to Nebraska's defense. We couldn't stop the run. We couldn't stop the pass. We couldn't stop them from getting first downs. Every time they got the ball, they scored points. We suck. It stunk. That's Nebraska's defense. I know Rutgers' offense hasn't been great, but when you're playing defenses like Ohio State and Iowa, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Nebraska, not Iowa State, or Iowa or Ohio State. There's Houston and Memphis over 57. We talked about that a little bit a few minutes ago. Hold on one second. Memphis, very good at scoring points. Houston, very good at not stopping anyone from scoring points. Also not good at stopping anyone from scoring points. Memphis. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if both these teams got to 30, 35 points and went way past this total. And the Blue Jays over the Mariners, I'm going with this one. I like Manoah a little bit better than Castillo. Castillo faded a little bit down the stretch. And Toronto has playoff experience where Seattle doesn't. And, that could be a big factor. Will the lights be too bright for the young Mariners? And that's something you have to think about. Manoah's pitched well. I think that they can come out with the win here. And that brings me to an interesting point because Buck Showalter has talked about, you might not see DeGrom in game 2 because if you're up 1-0, you could throw somebody else and save DeGrom for game 3. But if you win game 2 with somebody else, be it Carrasco or Walker or David Cohn, Brett Saberhagen, Frank Viola, Ron Darling, Bobby Ojeda, whoever, then you have DeGrom on full rest, ready for game 1 of the division series Tuesday. I don't know if I like that strategy because then if you start somebody else in game 2 and you don't win, and then you have to use DeGrom in game 3, and that's Sunday, then his next turn of the rotation wouldn't come around until Friday. You've already burned through the first couple games of the division series, and you could be in a 2-0 hole by the time he gets on the mound. So we'll see how that pans out. Of course, if they lose today, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll see DeGrom in game 2. But we'll see how that pans out. By the way, Hoskins bounced out to end the third. So despite threatening with 2 on and 1 out, the Phillies failed to score in the third inning. Yadier Molina just lined out to center to lead off the bottom of the third. So still no score at Busch Stadium in the third inning. Could be another low-scoring affair there. Quintana's given a 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Wheeler 1 walk or 1 hit, no walks, 2 strikeouts through 2 1/3. And at the end of the first period in Prague, score still 1-1. Goal scorers, like I said, Sherwood at 101 from Ekholm and McDonough for the Predators. Then Hurdle with his first at 8:36 off an assist from Timo Meier. Shots on goal in the first period, Sharks 12, Predators 11. So a well-played opening period there. And we'll go to 4 for the show. Yep, the first 2 Nerfies did hit. Buddy, we were talking about that. IC said he was going to basically bet Nerfies and unders blindly for all the games in the wild card round. I didn't catch if he was going to do it for the whole playoffs. But those 2 games were interesting. The Sutton and Wilson props hit. Still disappointed with the way that game turned out. But what can you do? On the 14, we got Saskatchewan and Hamilton. Look for it to stay under. I think it's actually, let me double check my slide because it gets blocked out there by the logo. Yeah, it is actually just under 49. I wasn't sure I had 49.5 on it or not. These 2 teams met way back in week 1. It was 30-13. Neither team is great offensively. I know Hamilton scored 48 against Winnipeg a couple weeks ago. That was a fluke. Look for that to stay under the mark. Seattle and the Blue Jays, I might as well stick with the under train because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to score any runs here in the first couple of games of the playoffs. Manoah's 1 start against the Mariners was a 2-1 game. So look for that to be another low-scoring game. I'm going to take Memphis over Houston. You look at the numbers there. Memphis has won 4 straight. Houston 2-3. Can't figure out what to do offensively. Can't stop anybody on defense. They're horrible. Dana Holgerson has his work cut out. And I think Memphis will prevail at home. And UNLV, this is a tough one, but I think UNLV is being undervalued here, getting nearly a touchdown. I know they're on the road. I know San Jose State is decent, but UNLV had won 2 games in the last 2 seasons. And they've got 4 wins already. They're 2-0 in the conference. If they win here, they'd go to 3-0 in the conference and really put the boots to everybody else in the West Division. I look for UNLV to win a close game or at least hang close enough to cover. Aiden Robbins has been great in the running back spot. Brumfield has done a good job at quarterback for UNLV. I'm going to take the Rebels in the points. And that takes us to Shot in the Dark. And you're to blame. Since there's only 2 playoff games left, I had to kind of improvise and pick guys from both teams in those contests to make it work. Because otherwise, it just wouldn't pan out. Rodriguez, over 1.5 total bases. Nobody on the Mariners has much in the way of familiarity with Manoah. The only guy with a whole bunch of at-bats is Santana. He's 2 of 7. Against him. But Santana's just as prone to go 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, so I left him alone. Ryan Tapia, you're like, well, why don't you have George Springer or Bo Bichette or Vlad Guerrero or Matt Chapman or Alejandro Kirk or Joe Carter or Fred McGriff in here? Well, that's simple. Tapia has faced Castillo 11 times. He's 7 of 11. I'm not going to argue with a guy that hit 636 against a guy in his career. Of those 7 hits, Tapia has a double, a triple, a homer, and he's also walked once. So he's got a 636 average, a 667 on base, and a 1.182 slugging percentage against Castillo in his career. And at plus 195, why the hell not? Jeff McNeil. I know you're like, well, why isn't Francisco Lindor or Pete Alonso or insert other name here? Well, McNeil won the batting title. He won it for a reason. Let's face it, the guy's no slouch at the plate. Sure, he's a punch and Judy hitter. He doesn't have a ton of pop. But you're talking about, like I said, he won the batting title. It's kind of hard to argue with a guy that hit 326 on the season. You look at his numbers in the last 10 games, he had 17 hits, 24 total bases. On the season, 39 doubles, triple, 9 home runs. Had 174 hits in 148 games. I like his chances to get a couple against Darvish or the Padres bullpen. Manny Machado. I'm not putting in Juan Soto because I can't trust him to do anything. I didn't put in Cronenworth because he's inconsistent. Machado's been on a roll down the stretch. He should fare fairly well in this one. In the matchup itself, I'm taking the Padres. Darvish pitched twice against the Mets this season. He won both his starts. He went 7 innings in both starts, including one where he beat Scherzer 4-1. And the Mets, they were up double-digit games in the NL East race, and instead they found themselves in this situation. I'm going to take the Padres. On the strikeout props of the games we haven't talked about because they haven't started yet, Castillo over 5.5 strikeouts is at plus 120. If you go over 6.5, it's plus 210. Manoah over 6.5 strikeouts plus 142. If he gets to 8, plus 285. Darvish over 5.5 punch-outs plus 106. Like I said, he struck out 14 or so in his 2 starts against the Mets this season. So if you want to go over 6.5, climb the ladder a little bit, plus 220 on that. Scherzer over 6.5 strikeouts plus 162. If he goes for 8 punch-outs, that's plus 300. So some big numbers there. And Saskatchewan over Hamilton. The Tiger Cats have faded badly. They lost to Montreal again in their last time out. Saskatchewan still above 500, or fighting to get to near 500. They're a better team than Hamilton. Evans turns the ball over too much. I don't necessarily like Cody Fajardo, but the Saskatchewan defense should make things difficult for Hamilton. Take the points. If you don't want to take the points, take the money line. But either way, take Saskatchewan. The payout on these, if you were to take the money line on all these, $631,238.87 on $100. If you take the Padres on the run line and take Saskatchewan on the run line, or on the money line, the run line, I should say, which would be the point spread, just under $750,000 on $100. Nice payout. And if you just take those 4 alternative K props, Castillo getting to at least 7 strikeouts, Manoah to 8, Darvish to 7, Scherzer to 8, pay about $15,176 on $100. Would make a nice start to your weekend, wouldn't it? That's some pizza money right there. That'll do it for Friday's show. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle's right there, Betting Royalty, and I will do my best to get back to you. I'm usually around during the day because I'm writing articles and stuff for Winners and Winers. So reach out, give a shout, and I will do my best to answer any questions you might have. Like I said, think about what kind of setups you guys might want to see for premium picks for you guys as viewers, what interests you, what doesn't, so we can start crafting those next week. And always, thanks for tuning in. We will be back on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Might have Jim Williams here. We'll see what's going on. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Good luck with all your bets. We will see you on Monday afternoon, where we'll recap what happened in college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and of course, we will give you just parlays. See you then.